there have been a lot of questions raised about security here, and before I came on, we were walking around and talking to security officials.
Castro, he's shaking hands with Raul Castro.
As Christian points out, President Obama just shook hands with Raul Castro from Cuba. Now,
Dilma
Christian,
Rousseff of Brazil.
what does that say as a gesture?
It says that this is a moment of reconciliation for Mandela, and President Obama is doing the diplomatic thing. He's not just going to walk by and ignore these people who are there, and they're all in a line. He's kissing now the UN Secretary General, President Zuma.
This is a man, and it is so true, who brought people together in life, and he continues to bring people together in death.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. By now, the handshake heard all around the world yesterday at Nelson Mandela's funeral service. Of course, that was the big news until the selfie and all those pictures of Michelle looking disgusted came out. But let's stick to the handshake for now, and we're joined by David Swerdlick, associate editor and columnist for TheRoot.com. Hello, David.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me.
It's always my pleasure. Okay, so let's talk about the handshake. It's been lauded by the left, which includes the media, and it's come under great scrutiny by many on the right, including, let me play for you cut 28, including Congresswoman Ross Layton, who from Florida, who left Cuba when she was a baby. Here's 28.
Mr. Secretary, sometimes a handshake is just a handshake, but when the leader of the free world shakes the bloody hand of a ruthless dictator like Raul Castro, it becomes a propaganda coup for the tyrant. Raul Castro uses that hand to sign the orders to repress and jail democracy advocates. In fact, right now, as we speak, Cuban opposition leaders are being detained and they're being beaten while trying to commemorate today, which is International Human Rights Day. They will feel disheartened when they see these photos. Could you please tell the Cuban people living under that repressive regime that a handshake notwithstanding, the U.S. policy toward the cruel and sadistic Cuban dictatorship has not weakened?
All right, so which side do you fall on, David?
I fall on that both sides have made a lot out of this when they probably shouldn't have. Look, what I wrote yesterday, Steve, was that, President Obama was out telling jokes in a tuxedo at the White House Correspondents Association dinner at the same time that the Navy SEALs were, offing Osama bin Laden. So, the idea that we can detect from what he does outwardly as a matter of ceremony in terms of what he actually thinks policy-wise, I think is an overreach. And I understand that people like Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen or Senator Rubio from Florida, who are of Cuban-American descent, are pushing this issue because it's an issue near and dear to them. But, come on. It's a handshake at a funeral between two heads of state. It's the polite, sort of ceremonial thing to do. I don't know what they expect him to do otherwise. The headlines would have been worse if the headlines had been Obama snubs Castro.
Worse for who?
It would have been bad form on the part of Obama.
Well, I don't. First of all, I don't see. I want to go back to your analogy. I don't see what telling jokes while at the same time our SEALs are undertaking a mission has to do either as in point of fact or symbolically or in any way with making a point to shake the hand of Castro, who everything the Congresswoman said is true about. And by the way, I would have, if I would have said anything to Castro, I would have looked him in the eye and said, "Alan Gross, release him." But of course, that's not in his, in his vocabulary. He can't be perceived as making a demand because who are we? We're just the United States, and we don't deserve to be in a position of power. But now we find out today, according to a report, that guess what? Just like they lied about Iran and said, "Oh, I called the Iranian president in his limo, and now we're going to have talks," when they had been talking for months. Now we find out that, according to this report out today, they've been talking to Cuba for months. So the whole thing is a charade.
Look, Steve, if you were talking to Raul Castro, I would expect you to say exactly what you just said. But I don't think that's what the President of the United States does at a state funeral for someone like Nelson Mandela.
Why? He was taking pictures and flirting with the woman prime minister of the Danish prime minister.
Wait. Two different things. You're in the VIP section. You're with a bunch of. You're about to go on stage and give the eulogy. You see Raul Castro. You shake hands.
Why? Why don't you walk by him? Why don't you walk by him? What do you got to shake his hand for?
Steve, they didn't have a conversation.
They did. Oh, they did exchange words. They did.
Quick words as they shook hands and moved on. I just think.
All right, whose hand would you not shake?
Give me a second to think. Surely there's someone, but I think Raul Castro. If I'm the president of the United States, the lead dog in the hemisphere, I'm gonna say to a guy who's the head of a country down the road from us. And look, I carry no brief for Raul Castro. I just think at a funeral, the thing to do between world leaders is just to not make a big deal out of it, shake his hand and move on. That doesn't change anything you do in the negotiations, anything that you do, later on policy-wise. And I think that when conservatives make a big deal out of this, what they're saying is that clearly they don't trust Obama on policy, and that's fine. But the idea that Obama can't simultaneously act in the normal modes of diplomacy and still have a policy that's different. That's what I meant when I brought up the Osama.
Right. Well, the problem...
It just doesn't make sense.
The problem is that, and we're talking to David Swerdlick, associate editor and columnist for TheRoot.com, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. The problem is, he's had a history of appeasing and apologizing and bowing down. And
I just don't buy that.
I didn't think you would, but I think he has. All right, so let's move on to the selfie, the picture. Now I know that photographer has come forward and almost apologized profusely for taking a picture, and saying, "Oh no, it doesn't show what it shows. You're all misunderstanding it. Oh no." Meanwhile, there are other pictures out there that show Michelle not looking happy as well. But Michelle aside, George Bush was at that funeral. If George Bush had been sitting in that position with Cameron and the Danish prime minister, and he was yucking it up and taking a selfie, that would have been that's all they would have talked about today, and maybe for the rest of the year. And he would never, ever, ever live it down. And that's true, and I know that's true.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. Bush would have gotten a lot of flack for it, maybe more than Obama. But part of that is because Bush had a reputation as a yuck-it-up guy versus Obama is seen as a more serious guy, frankly, whether you agree with him or not. But I don't think Obama's getting a free pass on this. I don't think people are going to talk about it for the next week or month or year, like you said, which is a valid point. But Obama's not getting a pass on this. There's been a lot of coverage today. Michelle Obama looking surly. Obama was just sort of goofing off at a funeral. I don't really condone that. The photographer did say that the atmosphere was festive. So I don't think the big problem is that they took a picture together. I think the problem was they weren't focused on the ceremony at hand. So I'll give Obama a demerit for that.
Good. Well, that's an accomplishment. Yeah. I feel like I actually have accomplished something. That's good. This speech, though, and I want to play a little bit of it. Getting back to the Castro handshake. Here's some of what Obama had to say at the during his speech, and this is I believe it's the one after the one we played. It's I'll find it if I have to find it, and I probably do and should. It is going to be cut 14. Let's give a listen to cut 14.
There are too many leaders who claim solidarity with Madiba's struggle for freedom, but do not tolerate dissent from their own people. And there are too many of us on the sidelines, comfortable in complacency or cynicism, when our voices must be heard.
All right, now, how do you square saying that? And of course, one of the people that you could be talking about is Raul Castro, because he fits that definition perfectly. Again, with shaking his hand, it's not the first time. I mean, if we consider the apology tour and the bowing down, but he hugged Hugo Chavez, and he took an anti-American book from him, which he was later seen holding around at another time. I just don't see how you make that speech, and before or after, it's unclear to me when he shook his hand, that you shake a guy's hand like that and warmly greet him and exchange pleasantries when he's one of the people you're talking about.
You know, Steve, though, this is really my point. I'm glad you brought up the Hugo Chavez meeting in 2009 in Trinidad at the Organization of American States. That's exactly
that's the same place, by the way. He also bear hugged and said "my man" to the then president of Brazil, who had just not too long before that called white people blue-eyed devils. But go ahead.
But Steve, this is the thing that where I really think conservatives have been off track from the beginning. That was back in 2009. Back in Obama's first few months in office, it was before he doubled the number of troops in Afghanistan. It was before Osama bin Laden. And I think and the reason I bring those examples up is to say I think that conservatives from the beginning have been trying to portray Obama as weak, as someone not fit to be commander-in-chief, as someone who knuckles under to these third-world dictators. And it's the exact opposite. Obama will make nice with people at these meetings. He'll shake hands. He'll call them. He'll do little videos saying to Iran, have happy holidays in Iran. But when it comes to using military force or putting in sanctions or taking a tough line, with policy, I think he does what he wants to do, regardless of whether he shook someone's hand.
But he didn't do that with Iran. Look at these talks. I mean, there's hardly a Democratic elected official in Washington that thinks this is a good deal for the U.S. and not a good deal for Iran. I mean, he's giving them billions of dollars that have been freed up. John Kerry yesterday said he couldn't guarantee that money wouldn't be used to kill Americans. He's letting them keep their centrifuges. He's letting them enrich uranium. He says no, but Iran says yes, and the deal goes forward. In Egypt, he not only rooted for the Muslim Brotherhood, but he withdrew military support.
He never rooted for the
Muslim
Brotherhood.
He withdrew military aid to Egypt because of what they did to the Muslim Brotherhood. He wanted them back in the process, and because they wouldn't be put back in the process, and they were arrested and cracked down upon and banned, he took away aid from Egypt. He's screwing Israel. I mean, he's done nothing tough or consistent with American policy.
Steve, on Israel, he did the Iron Dome missile defense system.
That's good. So when the nukes are falling, you got to hope they work, huh?
He did Iron Dome. On Iran, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on Iran. But I think when it comes to Iran, he has said all along he wants to find a non-military solution, and he put in place tougher sanctions than Bush did.
Yeah, but he just took away the sanctions.
Well, because he wants to get to an end game. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not going to sit here and say to you 6 months from now they will have solved the Iran nuclear problem.
Right.
They may not. But I'm saying he has said all along through 2 elections that he wanted to get this process going.
Believe me, he's been very honest about who he is. Listen, I got to go up against a hard break.
Yeah.
I really appreciate David Swerdlick, associate editor and columnist at theroot.com. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care. That's David Swerdlick. I just told you that. Here on the Steve Malzberg Show. We have one final segment left in the hour. By the way, 877 Newsmax, if you want to weigh in, right here. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.
The Steve Malzberg